Alright, welcome back. In the last two videos, we created a score counter that ticks up while you play. Now, today we are adding a live system with TextMesh Pro. Pretty much the same thing we did with our score text, but instead of tracking our score, we'll track our lives. The core idea is this. The player will start with 3 lives. Every time we hit an obstacle, our lives will go from 3 to 2 and then 1 and then 0. And at 0 the game ends and the score freezes. First of all, let's create our text object by going to our canvas and then creating another TextMesh Pro object. We should actually give these two objects names. This should be called lives text, and then we can call this score text. Let's reposition our lives text. Right now I think it should be below our score text object. But later on, if it doesn't look good, we can change it. So let's reposition our lives text object right now. Let's make sure they match the same X position. We can copy and paste this. I think that's enough. Now we're gonna get into our coding for today, starting with our HUD manager script. Our script already runs our score, as we did in the previous two videos. So right now, let's teach our script about lives. First, we need to create a variable for our lives text object, public text Mesh Pro, and then we'll just call it lives text. Then, since we want our player to have 3 lives, we'll make it an int. We don't need to make it a float. So we'll write private int lives and then assign it a value of 3. Now, here's what I want to do. In the start method, I will update our lives once and then update our lives again while the game is running. But first, at the start of the game, we want to update it once in the start method. Let's make a shortcut that can help us with updating our lives. Another method. So going under our game over method, let's make it private, and then let's call it update lives. This method is where we want to update our lives text object, the text in it. So let's do just that by writing the following. And then equals to, let's say, lives, and then we're gonna add the lives variable. Now, since we want to update our lives in the start method at the start of our gameplay, we need to call our update lives method in the start method. Now we added our lives variable right here because we want it to reduce gradually throughout the gameplay, throughout the player touching obstacles. So to do the logic of that, we need to create yet another method. Let's write public void and then let's call it player loses life. What this method will do is first it will reduce our lives. So for example, if our lives are 3, then player loses life method makes it 2. If it's 2, then the method makes it 1. After that, we're gonna call our update lives method so that we can put our updated lives variable in our lives text. Then finally, we want to create a condition where if our lives are 0, then the game needs to end. Or score counter needs to stop counting. So to do that, we need to create an if statement saying if lives equals to 0, then we need to call our game over method. Now I think we're done with the HUD manager script, so let's head back to our player behavior script to make our changes there. Now our current logic in our onCollisionEnter method says that if our player object touches an obstacle, then the game is over. There is no lives. So now we don't want our player behavior script to call our HUD manager script's game over method. Instead, we want it to call our HUD manager script's player loses life method, so that touching an obstacle lowers lives instead of ending the game instantly. So let's change that. Instead of calling the game over method, let's call player loses life. But now we need to make some adjustments in this script as well. We want to make it so our game or player object gets destroyed only when it touches 3 obstacles. So when all 3 of its lives are gone. To do that, we'll create an int variable right here in our player behavior script, just like the one we did with our HUD manager script. Oops. Private int, and then I think let's not call it lives to avoid confusion. Instead, I think I will call it something like collision counter, because it will count how many times our player object collides with a obstacle. We want this to be also 0 at its starting point. Now, here's gonna be our adjustments. Every time onCollisionEnter runs, collision counter will increase by 1. Then, when our collision counter is 3, then we're gonna destroy our object. Hold on, I think it was something like this. Destroy, and then game object. There we go. Now let's try testing all of this. Let's go back to our Unity editor. Oh, but also I forgot something. We need to assign our lives text object to our lives text variable. So let's do that as well. Now we're gonna test. Now we have 3 lives. Let's touch an obstacle. Okay. Okay, we touched an obstacle twice. Now we're gonna touch again. Alright. Let's do a small adjustment. Let's go back to our player behavior. And I want to make it so when our player object touches an obstacle, the game destroys that instance of an obstacle. So we'll write destroy collision dot game object. We want to destroy all of the obstacles, but instead we'll just destroy the instance that we touched. So let's test again. There we go. You can see that some of the obstacles are gone now. Now let's touch another one. Our life is at 1 right now, where if we touch another obstacle, the game is gonna end. You can see that our score counter freezes too. It doesn't count anymore.